Yeah, excited about game week. I think anytime you go through camp, you can tell that we had our first game week practice last night. There was a lot of bounce, a lot of energy, a lot of guys flying around, just excited about not hitting on each other, but getting ready for that first game. And I think we're coming out of camp relatively healthy. I think the biggest question mark is still Alex Givens, just trying to integrate him. He's been doing a bunch of walkthroughs, a bunch of stuff conditioning-wise, doing everything he can. I think he's still going to be day-to-day at this point, and probably no more Tuesday and Wednesdays. We try to integrate him back into the practice. So I think he'll be day-to-day, but should be able to tell you more on Wednesday, a little bit more definitive on him. But other than that, we're pretty healthy. Excited about going to Memphis to play. I think that's a huge fan base for us. The location, it's very close, so it's very, very important for us. A lot of respect for them as a team. Coach Norvell's done a great job, running the ball. RPOs, their quarterback's very accurate. They do a very, very good job with that. A lot of defensive guys coming back, so they have a lot of experience coming back on the defensive side of the ball. But overall, just really excited to get out there and go play, and just excited about game week. So with that, I'll open it up for questions.
Coach, going back to Alex, is it actually that realistic to have him play if he's not practicing at all?
Yeah, again, so his experience gives him a chance to do that. Obviously, your biggest concern is, just his conditioning. So we've been doing a lot of that, building a base so he's not starting from ground zero. But I think his experience gives him a chance to do that.
Now that you've got a spring under your belt and an August under your belt, summer volunteer workouts, where do you think these kids are in knowing the two new systems, defense and offense?
Well, I think anytime you have a lot of new players, you find out a lot in the first game. I do think, we've had a really, really good camp. We've had several good scrimmages of good on good, and that's probably your biggest indicator is when you're out there live in the stadium is, how are they doing when the coaches are off the field and they're in the box. And I thought the competition's been good. The understanding has looked good. I think it's been several good competitions. I think that creates some, some learning faster because you got guys pushing you, and I think that's good too.
Matt, you talked about the value of this game with the fan base in Memphis and all the people you have around there. What's the value of this game from the recruiting perspective? It's obviously a market with so many players nearby that y'all are looking at.
Yeah, I think, still one of the top factors in recruiting is distance. And with Memphis being an hour away, I think it's really important. There'll always be really good players in Memphis, and that'll always be one of our top areas just because of location. But I think our fan base being there, I think we'll have a really good crowd. I think it'll be a great atmosphere, so I'm really excited about that.
Matt, with Matt Corral, it's been a given around here for a while that he's the guy that you guys are going with, but still he's making his first college start on Saturday. What about his progress, advancement from the spring through fall camp? Where's he at now?
Yeah, I think you look at all the little things. Obviously, he's gotten better and more comfortable in the system. But I think it's the leadership, feeling comfortable, talking to the receivers, talking to the O-line, feeling comfortable in that leadership role. And I think him going out to SEC media days, doing all those little things, I think makes a big difference because he was thrust into that role. But I think he's done a good job with it.
Matt, what is the plan for the quarterbacks behind Corral? Do you try to work these guys into games? Do you try to preserve a red shirt? How do you think you use them?
Yeah, I think the 4-game rule does give you a little bit of flexibility, but given that they're all freshmen, I think John Rice does give you a lot with his legs. In every scrimmage he showed up making plays. Grant probably all around. He's a very smart, good decision maker. So they all kind of bring something a little bit different to the table. So we'll just have to kind of play that by ear and see how it works out. But Matt will go in as the guy, and that's the mindset.
I know you know better than we do. Matt Correll's got some toughness about him, kind of a linebacker mentality. I'm sure you've taught him how to slide, right?
Well, I think in this offense we want to make them defend all 11 people all the time, but I think there is a time to be smart and not take needless hits just to try to run somebody over. So I think being smart will be part of it, but also you want to let him that competitive fire show. But again, I think that's part of growing up and being experienced in that learning process is learning when to be able to do those things.
Matt, in your mind, what's the biggest challenge to getting a Nick Broker or one of these other true freshmen ready to play as quickly as you've had to?
You know what? I think just again, when you go out there in your scrimmages and he's playing against really good defensive linemen, that's your best opportunity is to go out there and see the speed of the game, what it's really going to be like. Now, obviously, you can't simulate a true game, but you just try to make practice as much like a game as you can and put him in those tough situations where there are no coaches around, they can't hear they're out there, and I think that's the best teacher that you have. And I think he's a little bit more mature than most freshmen in his learning curve. You could tell pretty quickly that he was going to have an opportunity just with his effort and his toughness and things like that. So, I think he'll be ready, if he gets thrown out there.
Matt, looking at the depth chart, you have Momo and Donta Evans kind of listed as one of those either-or positions. What has Evans kind of showed to push a guy that like Momo that's been there so much?
He had a really, really good summer, and he's just been very, very vocal. He showed up on all the special teams. He's been very, very physical in all the scrimmages. And this 3-4, it really kind of fits him because he's not leaving the box, and he's been very, very physical, within the A gap, B gap. So I think he's had a very, very good camp.
Matt, with all the new guys you have who might be starting for the first time, is there something you say this week to maybe control their excitement, not get them too involved in?
Yeah, I was, for me, you're watching all the games. You're watching Florida, Miami, and you're seeing all the things. And I think just sitting back and showing them some of maybe the mistakes and just try to just show them what, game situations. You try to watch them and simulate it. But that's what we do in the mock game. We try to simulate any situation they could possibly be in. And I don't think you can cover them all, but you try. You have the checklist, and you go through everything. You watch games, see different things as far as clock management, fourth and long, all the different things that happen in a game, and it's especially tough for a freshman. But I think you just try to cover it and go over it with a checklist, and you put them out there. And but again, I think we've done a good job with that and putting them in a bunch of game-like situations.
Matt, I know that you recruit JUCO guys to make an immediate impact. I mean, you look at the depth chart here on the defensive side of the football, you got 3 JUCO guys that are listed as starters. Just talk about that a little bit and how you guys may have hit on those guys.
Yeah, I thought we did a really good job with identifying some guys that could come in and help us. And you think Jonathan Haynes and Sam Williams, Lakia, they pop out. Dontario Drummond, you don't count Scotty because he was already here, but that's another one. So we've had some guys, and I think when you do recruit junior college guys, you're recruiting them to come in and play. That's what you're telling them when you're recruiting them, and that's the truth. You're not, if you want to build up a guy, you're taking a high school guy, but for immediate needs, I think junior college is very, very important. I think we have hit there, and looking forward to some of those guys stepping in and being, a big, big part of offense and defense.
We've talked about Broker and tackles, but if you have to have guards, Matt, come off the bench, who are your guys?
Yeah, so I think Bryce Matthews is a guy that can do it, and he'll do a good job there. So I think he'll be a guy, then Jalen Cunningham and Chandler Tuitt. So those 3 guys in the mix right now at guard. But I think Bryce gives you that utility player because he's a veteran. He knows he's played every position, including center. He gives you a little bit of a comfort zone because he can play so many different things. So I think and he's a very mature, very, very, just a great kid. And I think he'll do great in any spot he gets thrown in at.
Matt, watching those 2 games Saturday night, a bunch of missed tackles that led to big plays. What's the balance for you in tackling and practicing tackling versus trying to stay healthy through fall camp?
I think every coach in America wants to answer to that because I think that you have to, obviously our live scrimmages, we went live and we tackled, and you just got to suck it up because you have to do it some. But, again, in your thud periods, learning how to practice, learning how to be in good positions and people running to the football, I think that's very important because you can't just tackle all the time because then then guys will be hurt and they won't be there, and that's not good either. But I think, the live tackling periods were good. And I think you find out a lot in that first game, as you can see. But because I was watching it with the defense at Coach McIntyre's house, and we were, commenting on that. Especially the quarterbacks. You're chasing the quarterbacks in the pocket, and in practice, you blow the whistle and they're dead. When you get close to them, now they're able to run around and scramble. I mean, it is a big difference. So I think the defense understanding that is a huge deal.
Coach, going into this year with Scotty Phillips and Rushman Max, can you just talk about
in that situation this year?
Yeah, that's arguably the deepest and best position on our team. I'm very excited about the explosiveness that we have at running back. I think Scotty has had a great camp. He's he's at 205 or maybe a little bit under. He's in great shape right now. And then Isaiah Woolard is a great kid, hard worker. You got Jerry and Ely that provides unbelievable speed and playmaking ability. And then Snoop Connor he's a very, very tough runner, and he's done a great job. So I think we got a lot of weapons and a lot of depth there.
Coach, most of the media outlets, betting lines, all that, has Memphis projected as a favorite. Does that kind of add an extra chip on y'all's shoulder kind of going into this first week of game preparation?
I mean, yeah, I think so. I think any time that you're playing a quality opponent in your first week, I think your antennas go up, and the way you prepare and the sense of urgency you prepare with is very, very important. But I do think our guys will be ready to go when they get there.
Coach, has Jalen Smith had a really good fall camp, or is Jalen just not quite 100% yet?
I think Kedron has done a good job, and you'll see them both. And that's the thing when you're going out, it's going to be 90 plus degrees and 110 degrees on the turf. I mean, we're going to need all those guys to step in and play. But I think it's a great competition, and I think they'll both end up being out there.
Have you seen anything about Jalen's knee? Has he recovered that?
No, I think he's good. He's been out there. He's been out at every practice. He's been able to take his knee brace off some, which we've kind of been experimenting with that just to see how he did with that, and I think that really helped. Taking that knee brace off and move. But he's been 100% the whole time and is doing a good job. But Kedron's got that length, especially in the red zone. He's been really good all camp just because of his length and his size.
All fall, it seems like we've talked about y'all having 2 new coordinators. Memphis does as well. How hard is it to prepare for them when they kind of have?
Yeah, the biggest challenge is watching, Marshall, but for scheme wise for the defensive coordinator, but having to try to picture the Memphis players in that scheme, because when you're watching scheme, you have to watch another, but they're having to do the same thing. For us as well. For offensively, for their offense, it's a little bit easier because Coach Norvell has been doing pretty much the same thing. So we're getting ready for the run game and the RPOs. But defensively, we're having to watch some Marshall tape and do those things. But they're having to do the same thing for us. But it does add a little extra challenge there.
I think this is the only level of football where you don't have a preseason game or an exhibition game. High school's got it with jamborees. NFL, obviously, 4 weeks of preseason. Does college football need an exhibition or some sort of a preseason game that doesn't count in the standings?
I wouldn't say that. The way we try to approach it, and you asked the tackling question earlier, is you try to make your first scrimmage preseason game number 1, and your second game preseason game number 2. Then you have a mock game, as you go through camp. And so that's kind of the way that we approach it as, hey, our preseason game number 1 is our first scrimmage. So and we try to have SEC officials come in and try to make it as much like a game as we can. So that's the way we approach it.
Man, non-conference open in Memphis, you can take, how many players can you take? It's not the 70 rule at the SEC.
No, you could, we're going to take about 80 to 85, yeah.
Matt, just your initial impressions on Brady White.
Very, very accurate. He's really, really good at what they do. He's got a very quick release, and that bodes well in the RPO game. And, they make you respect their run game. They do a really good job in the run game, obviously. And then they have the RPOs built in to put your players in conflict. So his ability to have a quick release and be accurate with the football and obviously make good decisions make him very, very good.
Hey, Matt, Jerry Ely, Mississippi, and highly decorated. I see he's on the list, obviously, at running back. He's also a kick returner. Is he where you want him to be at this point, and how has he grasped this whole college thing and during his time here at Ole Miss?
Yeah, I think obviously he's a talented young man. He can really, really run if he gets the ball in open space. And again, we'll see, come game time. But when he gets the ball in space, he's very, very dynamic. So to have, the threat of him returning kicks, to have him the threat of, getting the ball in space and also at running back, I think he's got a chance to make a big impact.
Coach, how effective do you think Kadir can be with a big club on his hand?
Well,
I've been concerned about that.
I've been showing him all the pictures of Patrick Willis around the complex wearing the big club. So we've talked about that for sure. But I'm just happy to have him out there because he's a physical presence. And if it causes him to drop an interception or something, I can live with it. But just to go be physical and have his pass rushing ability out there, it will benefit us.